Are you the most interesting woman in the world?
So we are joined today by etiquette expert Heidi Dulebohn.
Even if you become, say, fluent in another language, that's great, but it does not mean you're fluent in that culture. Be careful what you say. You say something, you can't take it back. I don't have a family left. I'm it. The doctors at the Mayo Clinic told them you should tell her that she won't live to Christmas. There weren't any other females during this. It had never occurred to me that I was different because I was a female.
You're known as an international etiquette expert.
What's the difference between etiquette and manners? Do you know?
I'm at the Gokukuchi Temple in Tokyo.
What is appropriate to wear when you've been invited to something and the attire says cocktail attire?
We're going to answer the question, what is social etiquette?
Hey, let's go explore Paris. Come on, let's go.
Because today's topic is a gentleman's guide to etiquette.
Holy buckets.
Hello and welcome to the Curiously YouTube channel. My name is Mian and I'm one of the producers here at Curiously, where we make videos about things that we are curious about. And today I'm going to be sitting down with a woman who might just be the most interesting woman in the world. Her name is Heidi Dulebohn. And while she may be known as an international etiquette expert, she is so much more than that. She's one of the healthiest mindset people that I know. She's always fostering a positive spirit, and I can't wait to talk to her about her experiences and for you all to learn about it. Heidi, are you the most interesting woman in the world?
Oh gosh, wouldn't it be wonderful to say, yes, I am? I don't think so, Mian, but I'm flattered that you would even venture that. Thank you for even entertaining the idea.
Of course. I know that you have a lot of accolades. You know, you've traveled the world. You've been so successful in business. Where I'd like to start is actually, I want to know about the early days in your family life and where you came from. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. I was born in central Illinois, about 100 miles south of Chicago, and I had a very wonderful family. My mother was British. She was a British subject, died a British subject, God rest her soul, very proper. And my father was an American of German descent, and he was, they were very different, my parents, very, very different. My mother was more of an intellectual, more introverted, and my dad was an extreme extrovert. He loved people. There's an old saying, never met a stranger. He was one of those types, never met a stranger. You instantly loved him, my dad. The family owned some farms and things, and my dad got into the grain elevator business, and I was raised in that. I had two younger sisters. I'm the eldest of three. We were raised that exposure to travel is key to our education. I recognize just how lucky I am with that not everybody got that, but my parents had a real world view. My dad sailing the world all those years, and my mother being from England, so we started traveling. My first passport was at age 2. I remember it, and going to England, and so I spent much of my life in England, with my sisters growing up and traveling. My dad, I didn't go to school a lot. I mean, I kind of got graduated, but I was gone a lot. I missed my high school graduation. I got my first, my Sweet 16 was my first trip around the world. I know it sounds so pretentious, but the intent was to be exposed to really give you an education, to see the sights and sounds and smells and tastes of all these vast cultures. My dad always said, there's a whole world out there. This is not just the whole world where you are. And there are people that think differently than you and act differently and speak differently. And let's get out there and experience all of it. That's how you grow and improve, is through this exposure. And so my sisters and I, we were raised like that. And I think, I'm a lifelong traveler. I'm still traveling like this today because I was raised like that, and it's a gift. I was lucky to have been given this gift.
How do you feel that living in a small town shaped you to who you are today?
Well, I think, I learned a work ethic. There's this thing, the Midwestern work ethic. Well, it's alive and well. And my dad would say to me, you work all the hours God sends. So you just worked. you got up and you went to work. And that's how it was. And everybody I knew was like that. All my friends, there were only 68 in my graduating high school class. But we were all raised like that. We all got up and got jobs. And if you live in the middle of a cornfield, you can work as kids. They had, in those days, seed corn. There's a tassel at the top, and you have to take some of those out on certain rows. And so when I was growing up, the minute you were 5 feet tall, you could get a job detasseling corn. Unfortunately, I'm pretty tall, and that happened young. I was 10. And so I had my first official job at age 10. And I remember my first paycheck was $69. And by God, I was rich, and I was 10 years old, but I think that's the thing is it was a good, solid way to grow up. You worked, you didn't get in a lot of trouble because we got in plenty of trouble, but not really bad trouble because we were pretty tired from working all day. So, I was awake one summer. My mother and sisters were in England the entire summer, and I was just home with my dad, and I detasseled corn by day and was a waitress in the little cafe in the town by night. And, there was no time to get in trouble. So, and to this day, my little class and my classmates, a lot of us are still in touch. And so it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun to be from something small like that.
What did that instill in you, and how do you think that's different from children and kids growing up in today's age?
I mean, there's so many different opportunities to be sort of in agriculture, sort of be a laborer like I was, or working at my dad's grain elevator, or, these types of things. Today, you can sort of work a little smarter, maybe. And I think work is just different. I hope that parents are still instilling work is important. I think it keeps you grounded, and it's rewarding. You feel like you're doing something, you're giving back, you have a purpose. And hopefully what you do has something for the greater good, but it's just a different way of looking at it. I talked to someone recently who said that she was a teacher and said that most of the kids in her class that she's teaching all want to be, what do you want to be when you grow up? They want to be influencers. Well, good. I hope you could do it, but I don't know about that. Learn to code, do something that's more current with the times, or learn something about AI or wherever this is all going. Hopefully people still have this work ethic. It's just not so much of walking through a cornfield with your hands, you're using your brain a little bit more.
How do you feel that technology and the internet has affected really children's work ethic from a younger age? Do you think it has?
Well, that's a good question. It's interesting because I hope so, but I hope that they can understand that or someone expose them to all the different things that technology can do for you, how you use it. To do just about anything you want to do, even if you're going into a trade, which I think is wonderful. I think tradespeople it's really a great career. It's smart, it's needed. But be aware, pretty much anything you're doing today, you really need to have some technical skills.
I want to go back to your parents and learn a little bit more about your relationship with them. You mentioned your mom was originally from Liverpool, very proper, and your dad was American with a German background, so a little bit more, I would say, rough around the edges probably. So what was it like growing up with them as parents, and what was your relationship with them?
Well, it was very good. My dad was just, I love my dad. I love my mother too, but my dad and I were just like two peas in a pod. My mother would compliment him, and he was always an officer and a gentleman. He was always an officer, when he sailed at sea, and he was a gentleman. He was a kind, giant of a man physically, but just a kind soul. He worked hard to travel, to keep learning, to be exposed. And my mother, my relationship wasn't as close with my mom as I was with my dad. I'm very much similar to my dad. But my mother, who was physically very beautiful, she was a stunner. And she was very glamorous. I'm not quite so glamorous. She couldn't understand why I wasn't a little more glamorous like she. She was just a real intellectual. She was a member of Mensa, and proud of that. And everybody needed to be, be able to quote Shakespeare and to do all this stuff. And we had a story, 60 Minutes, 60 Minutes. One time I'm at home, we're there, my sisters and I, and 60 Minutes comes on, you watch that every Sunday night. And Sir Richard Burton, the actor, back in the day, he's alive, and he's on 60 Minutes, and he's quoting Shakespeare. And my mother's sitting there in Central Illinois in the living room, quoting along with him. And he starts saying things that weren't what she's saying. And she said, he's wrong, he's misquoting. He's misquoting Hamlet or whatever it was, She writes to 60 Minutes. By God, she was right. You don't mess with her. She knew better than this actor that was this world-class actor. She was such an intellectual. She didn't suffer fools and made us all, take the test for Mensa. And I think at age 21, I think I made it by the hair of my chinny chin chin. I couldn't possibly make it today, I'm sure. But that was very important to her. Intelligence, academics, learning, reading. Her books were her best friend, she said. And my youngest sister, Hedda, was very much like that, an academic and read, lived through books, really. And so it was different, otherwise I'm out in the fields working hard, that, or working at the grain elevator, really hard physical work, and I wasn't as intellectual, we'll say.
And then your father?
He was fun, and but it was all about work, and you get up early,
What was their relationship like?
It was, my dad loved the bones of my mom. He loved her. And my mom, I'm sure, loved my dad, but it wasn't as, maybe as much, I shouldn't say as much, how do I know, really? But I think that it was a complicated relationship. I think my mom missed England a lot. She told me once, never marry someone from a different culture. She said, you give up your history, your in some cases language, you give up, your culture, so be careful. If you do that, be very aware of what you're doing. And I think she struggled with that a little bit.
That's interesting. I've never heard that before. I feel like there's a lot of couples who are marrying that are different cultures nowadays.
And I think that was probably of her time. She got married in the late 50s, so of that time, probably different. Travel was different. You couldn't FaceTime somebody. There was no internet. If you wanted to go, she was not a big fan of flying in her early days. She sailed to England all the time. It took a long time. She wrote letters, airmail, It was a different experience. Today, I think it's great. I encourage it for me. I mean, I think it would be like the most fabulous thing, marry somebody or from a different culture. You get to maybe learn another language. You get to learn about that culture. I'm all for it. I think it was just, you have to realize where you are, be aware of your time and the space, and appreciate that there is an evolution. Things do change. Keep up with it, and don't try to be too judgy. Back in that day, that probably worked for her, but it's different today.
Right. And have you been able to maintain a good relationship with, through your family as you've gotten older?
No, well, that's a hard thing to answer because I don't have a family left. I'm it. I lost my sisters. I lost my mom and dad, and I'm the last one. I'm the last living person. So I lost my sister Gretchen, the middle sister. She died at age 12 of a very rare bone cancer. Terribly tragic. Out of the blue, this tall, and she was the best looking of us. She was gorgeous. She was 6 feet tall at age 12. And she complained of, she was out for track, complained of a leg hurting, and 5 months later she died.
Wow.
It was a terrible thing. Lost a leg, lost a lung. It was a terrible thing, My parents had a lot of trouble through that. I remember them having a fight, screaming at each other, and I'm 16. They're screaming. The doctors at the Mayo Clinic told them, you should tell her that she won't live to Christmas, and so she can make peace with herself. And my dad thought they should tell her. She knew. I think my sister knew she was dying. And my mother just melted down screaming at him. What? No, we're not telling her that. We can't take hope away. What peace does she have to make with herself? She's 12 years old, you know. So I remember those kinds of things. And
That's incredibly hard.
it's hard. I feel
From everybody, there's no right answer.
there's no right answer. I think my sister Gretchen knew she was dying, and she knew she had bone cancer when she woke up in the night one night, and when we just thought she had a pulled leg or something. You're upper tract, a big, strong, healthy, gorgeous young girl, you know. And she said, "I think I have bone cancer." Which who would have
how
come
would
up
she-
with that?
right.
Yeah, how would you know that? And she did, and diagnosis to death, as they say, 5 months. Terrible. She died November 1st, All Saints Day. My other sister Gretchen, that was Gretchen, Hedda, died at age 36, something called sudden death, and we'd never heard of it. Turns out it's something that happens to people in their 20s and 30s. It's like an adult SIDS almost. Something goes awry. Your heart goes into an arrhythmia for who knows why. And she just died. And she was engaged, going to marry a guy. She was on the phone with him, and he thought she fell asleep. She'd been up all night working on her lecture, and no, it was her last breath. She died. And so I get this call. I'm living in Minnesota at the time. I'm married, living in Minnesota, and I get this call. My mother screaming, you know, on the phone, which my mother did not do. We keep your emotions in check. And that Hedda had died. So yeah, so then Hedda died, and it was a terrible time. And then that was 1990, 99. And then my dad died in 2002. A couple of years later, my dad died, which was a killer. He came and lived with us, and he died. And then a few years later, my mom died. So it's different, you know. People handle things differently. I wish I had more oral history. I wish I'd recorded them more. I wished I would have had them write more on pictures, you know. And if anybody's watching this, record your family. Just record them. You know, you can do it so easily now with your phone or whatever, and save those stories, you know, and save and have them write on these pictures, because when everybody's gone, there's nobody to ask. Well, who was this? Was that Aunt so-and-so? And then there's nobody left to carry it on. So, okay, so a lot of deaths. So what does that do? You know, I have friends that unfortunately also suffered a lot of loss, and they're just have a really, it's just beating them down. And I have a different attitude. I think, oh my God, life is too short. Okay, wake up. And anybody that knows me well, this is my mantra. If you are lucky enough to wake up, thank God, the universe, whatever you believe in, get up, get out there. And if you're lucky enough to have 24 more hours, go do something with it. Don't waste it. It is too short. And help somebody. Make the best of those 24 hours.
How did losing your sister at such a young age, your first sister that you lost, Gretchen, how did you take that at that young age? Because that's something really scary that, you know, you don't have the brain power to fully process as something you do when you're older.
No, it was terrible. I have guilt feelings about it today. I was 16. I was in love with some dumb kid at high school, you know, and I was really more about him than, you know, and where is he today? Who knows, you know. And I remember my dad screaming at me one night, you know, she's dying, do you get it? And I just couldn't get it. I just don't think I really believed it. Now, my youngest sister did. She was younger. They were, I think, 17 months apart. They were very, very close in age, close relationship. I was older, and I was, you know, 5 years older. I was older. I was, you know, yeah, so I feel very guilty about it. I really do. For years, I felt terrible about it. And every All Saints Day comes around, I think, oh, geez, you know. But I was in college feeling really bad about it. isn't this weird how you remember things like this? Okay, so I'm in college, and I had a dream. I'm one of these people, I have these crazy dreams, you know, and I remember every one of them. And I dreamt, okay, it's like this classic thing. There's this big field, right? And it's waving the grain. And my sister Gretchen's there, and she's coming across this field. And I meet her, and I said, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I was so stupid. I should have been there more for you. I feel like I'm so sorry. And she said, it's okay. I got it. It's okay. I understand. It's okay. And you know, after that dream, I've always felt a little better about it.
Well, thanks for sharing all that. Yeah, that sounds like it was very, very difficult.
You know, treat every day like, you know, I hate that. Treat every day like it's your last day. Well, maybe there's something to that. I don't know. Or the people that you're around, make sure they know how you feel about them. Be careful what you say. You can't, you say something, you can't take it back. And be present. Be aware of what's going on in somebody's life. If somebody's your friend, your family member that you're close to, and they're going through something, be there for them. You don't have to fix it. Maybe you can't fix it. Just be there. Just let them know, hey, I'm here and I'm sorry you're going through this. And just make the best of those 24 hours you've got.
Right. So many times people want to be quick to jump to give you advice or try to fix it when really all we need sometimes is just people to listen and to understand what we're feeling.
Exactly. We do workshops, and part of it is listening skills, and that's part of listening is sometimes if somebody wants help, they'll ask, you know, I have this problem. What do you think I should do? Or maybe they just say, hey, I have this problem, and they'll tell you, just listen. Just be there. Don't try to fix it. Maybe there isn't a fix. Just be there.
We know you were very successful. How did you get your first role, and what was that like, especially back in those days?
Got this big agriculture background, worked at all my dad's grain elevators. I actually, you know, planted. They never let me harvest anything, but or plant, but I could plow. I had a tractor and I could plow. I don't think I was very good at that either. But so I graduated from college, and then I was lucky enough to get accepted. In those days, the big grain companies had formal training programs. You were an MIT, merchandiser in training, and you moved all over. They moved you all over, trading different grain, starting low. Maybe you could buy a truckload of grain, and then you'd work your way up to maybe, you know, a small 3-car multi-unit of rail, and you work your way up. And I started, my very first place was in Memphis, Tennessee. I've been in agriculture my whole life. I was raised it. I mean, I knew it. And the people in my MIT, my class at Continental Grain, were mostly Ivy League people. They'd never seen a cornfield. You know, were very smart. They just were really looking for smart people. And I've got these agricultural skills. So I'm in my very first job. I think, oh man, I'm going to just ace this. I've got this. I know everything about it. And I pull into Memphis, and they give you a bid sheet. And of course, the new person always gets the dud accounts. You know, you're not going to get the good stuff. So somebody's already there. That guy was great. He was from California, and he gives me this list, and I start calling, and they're like, yeah, get lost. No grain, no grain. Hey, I'm Heidi from Continental. I want to buy your grain. Here's what I'll bid you. You know, one guy I called, his name was William McFarland, Marked Tree, Arkansas. And I called this man, and he said, what? And he would hang up on me. And I'd call him the next day. Hey, Mr. McFarland, it's Heidi from Continental. I'd like to give you my grain bids today. Click, you know. And I kept calling. And then it became like, by God, my dad, I can't fail my dad. I can't lose this job. I got to buy grain from all these people. You know, my dad will kill me. I'll be embarrassed. I will, you know, all this. I've been groomed for this my whole life. So I kept calling. And one day, Mr. McFarland, he didn't hang up. I'm like, oh my God, can I tell you? Okay, so right now for beans, I'm bidding this. For soybean, for corn, I'm bidding. And he said, honey, listen, I've been driving this same road for 40 years. I've been sitting in the same desk for 40 years. And honey, you are a damn Yankee, and I'm not selling you any of my grain. And furthermore, you're a girl. And I thought, holy buckets, I'm for sure going to be fired because nobody's going to buy from me. There weren't any other females during this. It had never occurred to me that I was different because I was a female. Plus, I was a Yankee. But that hadn't dawned on me. I'm like, Yankee, what the heck? And the term even threw me off, and this girl part really threw me, because when you're pulling tassels or I'm weighing trucks, girl, didn't matter. So I kept calling that guy. I said, by God, I'm not losing my job over this. I am not. I called and called and called. And finally, he sold me a truckload of grain, and then another truckload. And then, long story short, it got really busy in the Midwest, and they told me, they said, Heidi, we got to send you to Gilman, Illinois. Super crazy busy. You got to go up there for a couple of months. You can go back to Memphis later. So I called Mr. McFarland. I said, I'll be gone for a couple of months, but I'll be back. I'll call you when I get back. And I went, did my thing, went back. First person I called was Mr. McFarland. I said, Mr. McFarland, it's Heidi from Continental. I'm back. And he said to me, one of two best compliments I ever got in my life. And he said to me, welcome home, Miss Heidi. And I thought, okay. That's beautiful. Yeah, it was one of the top two compliments of my life.
Yeah. So how many women were in your role? You said it was mostly men?
Yeah, there were 23 in my class, and it was very prestigious. They interviewed hundreds of people for these things, and I got in one. Not that there was like any discrimination or anything. It just wasn't something, I guess, maybe many women thought to go into. I was just raised in it. It was, it was the only thing I was going to do. It was not weird to me. It was weird somebody thought I was an anomaly because I was a girl. That just threw me for a total loop, because never entered my mind.
Did you experience any discrimination or anything being a woman? I mean, you mentioned this.
Mr. McFarland? Oh, yeah, he came around. Oh, yes, many, many times. I had many, far too long to talk about. I would be mistaken for, I go on my career, I do well, I get up to, I'm managing big grain elevators, I'm managing an export facility on the Eastern Seaboard, I'm working in New York City, and sometimes they would think, was I like, who is this? Is she like entertainment or something? They weren't quite sure who I was, what I was. I had customers. I remember one time I was working and someone wanted more than a grain bid. If I was going to buy his grain, it's going to take a little bit more than that. And he was the biggest customer we had at that particular facility. And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to lose our biggest customer. I'm going to lose my job. What am I going to do? Who am I going to ask? And there was a guy that, not my boss, but he was sort of involved with the elevators, this older gentleman, and I really liked him. And I went up to him and I said, I need to talk to you about something. And he was kind of like a grandfatherly type. And I told him my story and I said, what do I do? And he said, you call that guy tomorrow and you call him like you always did. Hey, Heidi from Continental, and here are my bids today. And you act like it never happened. He'll act like it never happened, and you move on. And I don't know if that's right or wrong. This was many years ago, but I did what he said. I was embarrassed to tell anybody this. And so I did. I called the guy the next day, gave him the spiel, and he said, oh, okay, sounds good. Never spoke about it again. It was like it never happened. So, but I've had other things where, like when Near Beer came into existence, that was a real great thing for me. Back in those days, sort of many like railroading, newspapers, the grain business was a hard driving, big drinking thing when people got together. And a lot of bad stuff happened with a lot of alcohol. And I had a couple of guardian angels. I had a traffic manager one time really saved me from a real terrible situation. So, people try to slip you something in your drink. Had that happen. I had a lot of crazy things happen. But I've had a lot of people that were around me that were really kind to me and sort of helped me and took care of me, and you just sort of worked through it,
I want to dive a little bit into etiquette. I know that you're known as an international etiquette expert. So I want to start off by just asking a very general question. And what is etiquette to you?
At its core, strip it all away. It is about being a kind, decent person who's respectful, and you are filled with gratitude. You know, you can sit down at a really, a state dinner, tons of, the table set very formally, and you don't have a clue what to do. But you could still be practicing great etiquette if you are just kind and you are just nice to people and you are just interested in people. You know the old be interested, not interesting, and listen to people just genuinely. That's the thing about etiquette is if you're just a decent person to someone else, that's the bottom line. Just be a kind person. It doesn't cost you any money. That's why I always say, why isn't everybody a little bit nicer to each other? It doesn't cost you a dime to do that. And the etiquette, you want to know all the rules, we can go through all of that. And there are expected behaviors in certain situations of how you should conduct yourself. But why should you care about that? Well, because this is a civil society, and we know how to sit here and have a civil conversation. You know, we could disagree on something and jump up and have a fist fight or something, but that's not really necessary. We can respectfully disagree or agree on something. So that's what etiquette is.
Do you think that etiquette has kind of lost its way and kindness in the world today, or do you think people need to kind of get a better grasp of it and how we treat each other?
You know, okay, I'm an American, I live in the United States, and this country is so divided now. The other side gets a whack, then the other side cheering, or vice versa. And I think that's not right. I think you should just hope that we can just listen a little bit more to each other. And maybe you're never going to agree, just like when you travel. I don't say assimilate with some other culture, but appreciate it. So maybe we disagree on something vehemently, but we can still be friends, and we can just say, okay, well, that's how you feel. Luckily, we live in a country where we can have these kinds of different opinions. I respect it. I appreciate that that's your opinion. I just feel differently about it. And I thank you for your understanding that you appreciate I feel differently. We can communicate and appreciate each other. And what's the similarity? Well, we're all getting up in the morning, and we're grateful that we have this time, this day to go out there and do something, and you're just trying to get through the day, doing your job, loving your family, being with your friends, and that's worldwide. That's what we're all trying to do. And these fringe people that seem to get all the attention, they're the loudest voices, really, I don't think, speak for everybody, because you can go to these countries that maybe are out of favor and the people are lovely. They don't agree with these loud voices either. I remember my father took me to Tehran, to Iran. He had business there. He did a lot of this grain trading and traded all kinds of different things, proteins mostly. But then I remember meeting people. They were lovely people. Beautiful place there on the sea. It's beautiful. And, and today people say, oh, Iran, it's horrible, it's horrible, it's horrible. Oh, actually, if you talk to the people, they're lovely. I remember being in the Ivory Coast in Abidjan in Africa, and my dad was doing something with palm oil, and getting out and meeting the people. They were lovely people. You have to get out and talk to actual people, not the politicians, and you can't judge a whole people. I'm not into stereotypes. We look at national characteristics, and you can't judge all that by the loudest voices. It's important to know, and I try to learn a few words, to be respectful in another language, because, I'm an American, I show up with English, and you're in some completely foreign place, and like I'm in Seoul, and they're just trying to, I don't speak any Korean, and they're speaking English back to me, but you try to learn a few words just to show respect, but it's important to remember that even if you become, say, fluent in another language, that's great, but it does not mean you're fluent in that culture.
So I want to switch the conversation and talk a little bit about relationships. So you are married.
Yeah.
And how did you meet your husband?
The cable TV guy introduced us. I was working in Omaha. I'd left New York. I remember the dress I had on, little thing from Lord & Taylor. I'm walking home and houndstooth check. And I walk in to the building and the elevator opens and the cable TV guy's there. And I said, oh man, because it was always out. And I said, listen, I'm tired. I just want to go and watch something. Is the cable out again? He said, no. I just hooked. New guy moved in. I want to introduce you. And I said, I don't think so. No, thank you. And my mother always said, when you least expect it, you're going to meet a nice guy. I said, if she says that one more time, I'm going to blow, So I'm like, I don't think so. And we get in and the elevator door opens up and there's this guy standing there, my husband, and he looked terribly. He had this really weird outfit on. And he had all kinds of weird stuff in this condo. And the cable TV guy said, here you go. This is a new guy. I'm like, oh. Long story short, it all worked out, and that was 27 years ago. Yeah, long time. Don't lose your identity. I think you need to be who you are, and they're who they are. And you're lucky you're going through life with this partnership, and I think that's great. When I want to do something, I'm very independent. I'm going to go do it. And the cool thing about Scott is he encourages it. At one point, I went to the Galapagos Islands for a trip. I mean, it was like a religious experience. Something happened to me there. I was like, this place, this whole thing. I said, I got to go back. I need to really work on my Spanish. So I came back from this trip and said, you know what? With work, it was fine. I could be gone for a few months. And I said, listen, what do you think, Scott? I think I want to move to Ecuador. Don't know a soul. Want to work on Spanish and spend a few months. What do you think? And he said, awesome, go for it. And I thought, right answer. He saw this is something she's interested in. She wants to immerse herself in this culture, work on her language skills. And he said, go for it. If he would have said to me, oh, I don't think so. Why the heck would you want to go there? You don't know a living soul there. Yeah, what are you, crazy? No. It was the complete opposite, without hesitation. He said that. He's independent. He's was always at the hospital, and he's helping people. He's a physician, a surgeon, so it's great. Be at the hospital. For 20 years, we never drove together to an event. We drove separately because he'd get called out. So you just learn to appreciate that's what he's doing. He's helping people. This is why he's doing that. We kept the relationship going because we applauded each other's passions, and you stay in touch. And when you are together, make it good. Just have a good talk. And now he would hate it when I say that. I say, well, hey, Scott, let's talk. Let's have a talk. And he said, what do you want to talk about? So you can't sort of set it up like that. But just organically, just start talking about something and that's on your mind. Don't let things fester. Get it out there. And the more you can do that, be respectful of the other person and respect that they maybe are very different than you. They might think differently. We're very different people, completely different people. And the way I would handle things is not his style. And for a long time, that was very hard for me. Now, after all this time, a lot of, sort of that kind of understanding. Okay, this is just how I'd handle this situation. He's going to handle it differently. And that's cool too. That's his way. And appreciate that. Don't be down on somebody because they're not like you. That's the beauty of it. You want everybody to be exactly like you? No, it'd be a pretty dull world. So those are the type of things I think make any relationship work, if you're nearby or not. He was more excited for me to go and pursue whatever it was I wanted to pursue than he was worried about, maybe being kind of lonely. It's selfless, it's being a big person, kind of being pretty adult, really. When I decided to do this master's in Belgium, I was pretty much gone for 2 years. And back and forth. When I was in Ecuador, he came for a few times. He took him to the Spanish school. They taught him all kinds of funny stuff to say in Spanish, and And so he sort of gets in, it's almost like he's having a similar experience. For instance, right now, okay, so he sort of semi-retires, that lasts like a week, you know. Okay, he ends up in Guam, sort of a long story, and he's there, and he has the opportunity to really help somebody there. They don't have his specialty. He can build a program from scratch. It's 8,500 miles away. It's 30 hours to get there. It's a 15-hour time difference. It's not easy. But just like over all these years, he encouraged me, I'm encouraging him. He's excited. He's happy. He's creating something from scratch that's going to actually help people. I'm grateful. I'm really grateful. I realize that I'm lucky, and I'm grateful for everything I have, and all the experiences. Really, I don't want any things. Really, I just want experiences. I think that's like what all the kids want today, isn't it? You know, experiences. And I say, go for that, because this material stuff, forget it. You know, comes and goes. Another thing is, there's a saying, and you know, I think there's something to it. It said, you are the average of the 5 people you're closest to. So be picky about those 5 people. And I've really been thinking about that a lot lately. You know, a lot of people that are stressors in your life or downers, dragging you down. No, God, life's too short. Be around people that are better than you, smarter than you. I want my average going up. And be around people that build you up. Don't be around people that tear you down. There's enough of that.
That's a really good one, because that says so much more than about physical appearance or anything.
Yeah.
It's also about, you know, can I trust this person, and, you know, will they be there for me when times get tough?
Oh, that's what's important. Listen, all this beauty stuff, that can go. There could be myriad reasons why that can go. If that's what your criteria is, you need to switch it. That's momentary. No matter how good a plastic surgeon you might have, that's still, you know, go a little deeper.
So what you told me that, what was your husband's criteria for you?
So early in the relationship, and, you know, and I was saying, well, I wanted somebody who would support me, and, you know, was somebody steady, because I'm kind of up and down. He's somebody steady, you know, and he's all of that. And I said, okay, so why do you love me? Let's make it about me. And he said, because you could get me out of a foreign prison. He still says that today. You could be resourceful enough, you could have tenacious enough, you'd have all of these attributes. By God, you could count it. I will get you out of that foreign prison.
I love that so much.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, because, you know, that shows what you're looking for in someone. It's not just looks or, you know.
Yeah, it wasn't about that at all.
It's more like, can I count on this person when times get tough? Because life is hard.
Oh, God, yeah.
People always talk about being happy, and if I'm not happy, then I'm, you know, it's like life is not about being happy. You're not always going to be happy. In life, there are going to be so many down times. If you're happy, enjoy that moment, but know that there are going to be things that come and just knock you right on your ass that you can't even predict, whether it's a family member, you get sick, something happens, a natural catastrophe, something at work. There's so many things that are out of your control that you have to be able to navigate those tough times.
Absolutely.
And that's actually what ultimately will represent how happy you are in your life and how much purpose you have. So.
Oh dear, I dumped a guy one time because I thought to myself, do I really want to marry this guy and be buried next to him? Hell no. I don't want to be buried next to this guy. So that was it. Yeah, isn't that a weird thing? It's weird. Okay.
Yeah. Well, Heidi, this has been awesome. We're coming to the close of our conversation, so I'm just going to hit you with a couple of quick fire questions, and then we'll let you get out of here. So the first one is, what do you think is the most important topic that people should be talking about but are not talking about enough today?
Kindness. Just be a decent person, especially now when there's so much rage, there's so much strong opinions. Respect that somebody thinks differently than you do, if they do, and be kind.
What do you think people can do to improve themselves today?
Keep growing, keep learning, get out there. Don't stop. Too many people are stopping. There's so much to learn. I wake up every day thinking, oh my God, I'm never going to get to know everything I want to know. Expose yourself to something you never thought of before and keep growing.
What can people do to foster better relationships with themselves?
And stop. Take a minute. You can't do this on the fly, while you're, on the bus going to work or you're running around. You need to just stop, sit down, be comfortable, and really have a conversation with yourself. Look inward. And it takes time and it takes practice, but see what you see. If you don't like what you see, change it.
Do you feel like you always had that understanding of yourself?
No, not at all.
At what age do you think you kind of came to some sort of realization to really understand that?
Probably, maybe 10, 15 years ago. Really, honestly, I try to stay so busy, you don't have time to stop and say, well, geez, how do I feel about that? I don't know, I'm too busy, I can't stop. Just learn to stop a little bit. I know life is short and you're trying to get it all in, but you got to know yourself as well. So just stop every so often, check in with yourself. It sounds kind of weird, but really just check in, and you ask yourself, treat yourself like you would a friend. How are you doing, really? Is everything you're doing a good fit? Or maybe not. If not, why not? If you can make a change, then do it.
How can people foster better relationships with their friends?
I think you need to really do something similar. Stop again and look at the relationship. Is it equal? Is this an equal friendship? Everybody giving about the same? What are you getting out of this friendship? What does it mean to you? How would you feel if you didn't have this friend in your life? Answer those questions to yourself honestly and see how you feel about it. And if you feel great, great. Or if you think, hey, this could be improved, then tell your friend, I wish we could work on this a little bit. Just be open and honest. I think being open and honest and just expressing feelings respectfully is a really healthy thing to do. And if it's not a good fit, well, then just make some changes.
Mm-hmm. And finally, where can people go to learn more about you?
Thank you. Please, you can find me on Instagram. You can find me, check out my YouTube channel, Heidi Dulebohn, and my website, HeidiDulebohn.com. Love to hear from you. Please DM me. I will write back. And thank you for sharing this time with me, Mian.
Thank you as well.
It was so nice of you to even ask, and thank you for the interest. And you're awesome, by the way.
It was a pleasure speaking with you and learning from you.
I think you're a really good fit for me. I'm glad you're in my circle here. So thank you.
And you as mine as well. Thanks,
you.
Heidi.
Thank you.